Jalimadar and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to take the privilege to introduce our chief guest for today's event. As you heard, our chief guest today is senior scholar Dr. Rashida Noormohammed Hunzai Sahib, who is originally from Hunza, northern areas of Pakistan. In his educational career, he has 3 master's degrees in philosophy, Arabic, and Persian languages and literatures from Karachi University, and a PhD degree in Islamic Studies from McGill University, Canada. His publications include The Shimmering Light, an anthology of Ismaili poetry, which is published from IIS London, 1996, a new Persian edition and English translation of Pir Nasir Khusro's Goshayish wa Rahayish, printed as Knowledge and Liberation, also published from IIS London, 1998, and the book The Holy Ahlul Bayt in the Prophetic Traditions. Currently, he is in the process of completing an English translation of Pir Nasir Khusro's magnum opus of Ta'wil, Vajruddin, and its new Persian edition. He also hopes to publish a new edition of Sayyidina Hamiduddin Kirmani's Al-Riyad. He has served the Tariqa and Religious Education Board for Pakistan and the Institute of Ismaili Studies during his entire working life. Now I will take the honor to introduce our speaker for today's event, Al-Raiza Rashida Noormohammed. She was born in Tanzania in 1942. She has a master's in education from McGill University in Canada. Her professional career spans Kenya and United Kingdom. As an education officer for the Birmingham Community Relations Council and as a curriculum planner for the Institute of Ismaili Studies, London, and as a religious education coordinator with ISRA, United Kingdom. In her voluntary capacity, she has served for 3 years on the BBC's Asian Programs Advisory Committee. In her retirement, she works at the Victoria Albert Museum, London, as a freelance intercultural guide. Rashida Sahiba comes from a family of outstanding individuals who have served the Jamaat and Imam Zaman. Her maternal uncle, Count Muhammad Nasir Jindani, was the 2nd Divan in Ismaili history. And her paternal uncle, Wazir Ali Muhammad Daya, was a great missionary in the time of His Highness the Al-Khan III. So you see how naturally appropriate it is for her to have created this book, A Bridge Between Two Epochs. The author will talk about the beauty, importance, relevance, and the impact of Hazrat Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah's life and work. Please join me in welcoming both our guests today.
Yeah, good afternoon to you all, and a very, very warm welcome for being here today, to encourage me, to inspire me, and to make me feel that I have spent my time on this amazing 48th Imam, and that through you, this news, this knowledge will reach the rest of the Jama'ah. That is my prayer. Maulana Sultan-i has written about his own life. He says that his long life was so full that never, for even one instant, was he bored. Not for one instant. So you can imagine that what a full, creative, and a life packed with lots and lots of projects where he actually changed the lives of millions of people. So this type of a life is not easy. Neither is it easy to pack into a book, nor is it easy now in the next hour to talk about him and to do him justice. So in no way am I claiming that I'm going to do justice to this subject, but I'm going to make a humble effort. And again, my hope and my prayer is that somebody will pick up from here and take it forward, because that's what we do. We build on each other's creativity. So I would like to now first start with something which you may find very interesting, because you are all Americans. You live in this vast, advanced country of the United States of America. And just before I came here, I was scrolling the CIMA website, the Ismaili website, CIMA, and I found a complete file on Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah's visit to the United States of America in 1907. Now, how many of you are aware of that? You see, I knew that. So I quickly copied that file to bring it with me here so that I would have easy access. And I'm going to read to you what the newspaper said about him, which is why I need my glasses. It says, first of all, let me reference this material. The following excerpts are taken from the Sunday, January 27, 1907 editions of the Washington Herald and New York Tribune. And I quote now. The other Khan, who has just arrived at San Francisco with a large retinue for the purpose of spending several months in visiting America, while not one of the reigning chiefs of British India, please note, is nevertheless a most important figure in that great Eastern Empire, and indeed throughout the Muslim world. In fact, the influence which he wields is superior to that of any Oriental potentate. It is an influence which he owes to the veneration in which he is held throughout Islam as a direct descendant of the Prophet from the latter's daughter Fatima. Washington Herald, New York Tribune in 1907. And then it continues, the Pope and the Dalai Lama of Tibet are great spiritual chiefs, but in them the principle of inheritance is absent. The other Khan, whose full title is His Highness Sultan Muhammad Shah Al Khan, Grand Cross of the Order of the Indian Empire, is one of the 3 or 4 chiefs of a religion by inheritance, who are and have been for centuries voluntarily recognized as such by followers in all parts of the world, separated from each other by physical and political conditions, and united only in their allegiance. He is, without exception, the most interesting Oriental who has ever visited the United States. So, I wanted to start with this. I wanted to start with this and to say, Maulana Sultan Shah, oh sorry, yes, I forgot. Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah, our 48th Imam. He was known throughout the world, which is a first in Ismaili history. No Imam before him had that type of visible presence. So that is one of the firsts of Maulana Sultan Shah. Then, according to this and according to Maulana's own memoirs, he landed in San Francisco because he had crossed the Pacific Ocean from Japan. He was the first Imam who physically went right around the world. One of my good friends' father, he was very involved with the Ismaili Association of East Africa. He was told by Maulana Sultan Shah, go to Japan. So he said, Maula, I don't know anyone in Japan. Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah wrote him a personal note addressed to General MacArthur. General MacArthur, post-Second World War, Japan was under the control of USA. And the man there was General MacArthur, the American general. Maulana Sultan Shah wrote him a personal note introducing one of his murids. What does that tell you about Maula's influence, his sphere of influence? You know, these are all our recent history. You know why I have made this book? It's because I think that we, the Jamaat, have lost track of time, perhaps in our migratory movements, in our having to settle in new countries, whatever the reason may be. Maybe because modern day life is so fast and so busy. But we have lost track of our recent history. And I felt that unless we understand Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah's contribution, we will never appreciate Maulana Hazar Imam's work truly. So this was my reason. There are many other reasons as well. So Maulana Sultan Shah had the longest imamate in Ismaili history so far. He was the first imam to physically go around the world. You know, I'm emphasizing the word physically because if you look at the poetry which was mentioned earlier, Dr. Hunzai's anthology of Ismaili poetry, in one of the poems there is a description of how Hazrat Ali used to go right around the world in a moment. And that was not physically. That was not physically. So that was the first, one more first for Maulana Sultan Shah. What else do we know about him? Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah was the first Imam to celebrate golden, diamond, and platinum jubilees. Not in one continent, in two continents, in Africa and in Asia, because that is where the Jamaat was concentrated, the Jamaat that was in contact with the Imam. Today, our Jamaat is global, and everywhere they are in contact with the Imam, alhamdulillah. So he was the first. Now, you might think, well, that's not too important, surely. Well, let me tell you that Maulana Muslim Sabillah the first, our Fatimid Imam, who was also the king, the Badshah, the Shahin Shah of an empire, the Fatimid Empire, he had a 60-year imamate, 60 years of imamate. He could have done a silver, a golden, and a diamond jubilee, but he didn't. But Maulana Sultan Shah, whereas Maulana Sultan Shah did not have an empire. He was living in colonial India, but he had jubilees. Should that not make us think and reflect and try to understand why would he have done that? Why would he have done that? Did he want to show his greatness and his grandeur? No. These were all symbols of zuhurat, of manifestation. Maulana Sultan Shah started that process, and Hazrat Imam has not his jubilees, because Maulana Hazrat Imam's jubilees are within the Jamaat. Maulana Sultan Shah used to be in the public stadium. Maulana Sultan Shah's jubilees were attended by all the colonial administrators. You know, his Diamond Jubilee speech from Dar es Salaam is available on audio. It's on the websites. Listen to it sometime. And listen to what he says to those colonial administrators. He tells them quite frankly, he says to them, if you people, I'm just going to use guys because I've been in America so long now, he said that if you people do not change your racial discrimination attitudes, you will lose your empire. Yeah? This is what is Zuhura, manifestation, introducing himself to the entire world. That he was the 48th Imam of the Ismaili Muslims, and that he was the direct descendant of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And, like I just said, Maulana Hazrat Imam has continued that tradition, but within the Jamaat. But then Maulana Hazrat Imam also stood up at the Canadian Parliament in 2014 and explained how he was the direct descendant of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Mu'mineen, because we are all here Mu'mins, I can see it from your faces, we need to know why. We need to know why. Why did the other Imams in earlier history not do that? Is there a difference between their time and our time? Should we not be aware of that difference? And this is the reason why this book is actually called a bridge between two epochs. So normally the diamond, golden, platinum jubilees were first. What else? Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah is the first Imam in our history to write 2 books in English. In English, yes? And one of them is the memoirs of the Aga Khan III, and the other one is called India in Transition. But about the memoirs, he mentions in his Platinum Jubilee speech in Cairo that as I have told the whole world in my memoirs. So who did he write these books for? He didn't write them for the Ismaili Jamaat. He wrote them to tell the whole world about Islam, about the Ismaili Tariqah. So this is another first. And then Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah became the president of the League of Nations. The League of Nations is the precursor of our United Nations today. How did an Indian prince, Maulana Sultan Shah was classified as an Indian prince. He even had an 11-gun salute in Mumbai. So he was classed as an Indian prince. How did an Indian prince, in a time of imperialism, colonialism, you know what imperialism means, I'm sure. When the British, the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Germans, all had an empire, that empire was based on one principle. And that principle was that the ruler, because of his race, was superior, and the ruled, the subjects, because of their color, were inferior. That is the basis of imperialism. It was a time of really very, very open racial discrimination. In India, those of you who have origins in India, you will know, and it is mentioned in the preface written by Somerset Maugham in the memoirs, that British clubs in India used to have notices outside saying, Indians and dogs not allowed. That was the empire. And in that context, how did Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah become the president of the League of Nations? Think. We shouldn't take our history for granted. We should learn more about it. We shouldn't take it for granted. The achievements are so outstanding that no human tongue can actually grapple to describe those outstanding achievements. So that was another thing which Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah did. So I will now go on to this book, and why? It's the bridge between two epochs. The actual heading, Bridge Between Two Epochs, is a phrase which Maulana Sultan Shah uses in his memoirs and in his Platinum Jubilee speech. He may have used it in other places, but those are the two places I am aware of. Now, when you take the word bridge, immediately, you know, Maulana Hazrat Imam has made some amazing speeches about bridges. When, first and foremost, when Afghanistan came into the focus, Maulana Hazrat Imam advised that his institution should build bridges across the Panj River, so that Afghanistan and Tajikistan can join. So what is a bridge? A bridge is something which links, which connects, where there is an exchange from there to here, from here to there. There is an interconnection, there's connectivity. So a bridge is a very important symbol. And Maulana Hazrat Imam has made very important speeches about when he opened these bridges. This book is also called A Bridge Between Two Epochs. And when we say, I want to build a bridge, look at us today. Look at what Maulana Hazrat Imam has been saying in his sermons. We need to build bridges in the societies in which we live. Has he not said that many times? Has he not said that we should be the ambassadors of Islam wherever we live? He wants us to be bridges, each one of us. Recently he has used the word da'i. You are all da'is. How do you understand that word? To me, that word means we should have the level of knowledge of a da'i. And after that we can start building bridges with others. Because more and more we are living in a plural society, a society which is full of diversity and differences. But if people remain focused only on their differences, we will never see the end of conflict and disharmony. We have to have harmony, peace in order for progress to take place. And therefore, we need knowledge about ourselves and others. I should tell you something which you'll find very interesting. At the 25th anniversary of the IIS, our local Jamaat Khana Mukhi in London, West London, went to attend a tea party in the social hall of the Ismaili Center. In the evening, after Jamaat Khana, he told the Jamaat about that reception and what Maulana Hazim Imam said. You know what Maulana Hazim Imam asked him, our Mukhi? Our Western Jamaat Khana is in Hounslow, a completely multi-racial, multi-ethnic area, like most of London is now. And Hazim Imam said to him, Mukhi, what other religions are being practiced in your area? See, expected the Mukhi to know. So what I'm telling you is that we are living, and more we will continue to live in a plural society, which demands, number one, that we remove the clash of ignorance, as Imam says. Number two, that we know a lot more about ourselves so that we can educate others, and we should try to learn about others so we can have a united, peaceful society. So this word bridge has a lot of meaning. But in Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah's case, there are some very, very deep, very profound, very subtle, and very esoteric batini meanings. Prior to Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah, if you just go as far back as Hazrat Adam, the first prophet of this major cycle, remember, cycle, and cycles there is not one cycle, there are many cycles. But if you only go back to this one cycle, Hazrat Adam to Nabi Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, 6,000 years. 6,000 years. We Ismailis have never believed that God created creation, physical creation, in 6 days. You read the books of Sayyidina Al-Mu'affidin Shirazi, Sayyidina Kirmani, Sayyidina Sijistani, Sayyidina bin Nasir Kisra. None of them accept that this is about the physical creation of the sun, the moon, the stars, etc., etc. No. That we leave to the exoteric people. We are Batiniyun, we are Batinis. We believe that these 6 days are the 6 great prophets. Hazrat Adam, Hazrat Nuh, Hazrat Abraham, Hazrat Musa, Hazrat Isa, Jesus, and Nabi Muhammad Mustafa. And according to the Quran, each of these days is not 24 hours day, but 1,000 years. Now we have to ask ourselves, when did the 1,000 years of Nabi Muhammad Mustafa finish? You all look at the Islamic date, 1400 something. 1400 something. So, if each prophet had 1,000 years, then surely Nabi Muhammad's cycle has ended. So the question is, when did it end? And when did the new one start? These are the questions that I have tried to engage my readers with in this book. If you read the introduction, because the introduction is the only bit which are my words. The rest is all Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah's words. If you read the introduction, you will understand that I am trying to engage with the more subtle, the batin meanings of this word, a bridge between two epochs. And I think that's very important. It's very important. Otherwise, it is impossible to understand what is happening around us today. Really impossible. So I invite you first and foremost to read my introduction. It's not very long. I asked many questions in that introduction, and then I give you Quranic references, and I give you certain information, and that should help you to arrive at the answers. And if you don't arrive at the answers yourself, after reflecting and doing some more bandi and reflecting, there are many people in this audience who can help you. So this is a bridge between two epochs. Now in this book, I describe this book as an organic project, meaning first when our teacher was from Hunzai. You heard his poem, which was recited in the language, in his language, the language of Burushaski. And in this poem, you heard that he was praising Maulana Sultan-Muhammad Shah. So why was he praising Maulana Sultan-Muhammad Shah? Because he, our teacher, was one of a handful of Hunza people who received an Isme Azam from Maulana Sultan. And with that Isme Azam, he worked very hard. He did his bandi with great discipline. And not only did he do his bandi, he went on foot, on animals like donkeys and horses, all the way to China to serve the Jamaat of China. And while he was there, because of the enmity, opposition, torture, imprisonment, because of his association with the Jamaat, and he was a Pakistani citizen, he had a lot of trials and tribulations. So, combined with that, his Isme Azam Ibadat gave him the ultimate fruit, the fruit of the opening of the doors of spirituality. And when these doors of spirituality open for a moment through Isme Azam, their level of knowledge escalates. That is what happened to him. That is why he was praising Maulana Sultan Shah in that poem. And he has written several poems about him. And of course, his name is Allama Nasiruddin Nasir Hunzai, whom the Jamaat doesn't understand too well because there are many character assassinations and things like that, unfortunately, speeded up by the internet. But his poetry has been described by Maulana Hazir Imam in a Tarika in 1961 as the Ginan book in Hunza language. Yes? So he is the one who said to me once in Karachi, my daughter, why don't you write something about Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah? That's how this book began. This is how this book began. And as I started researching, then I found a farman, and that farman is in the book. 26th of July, 1957. We just celebrated the Imam Day on the 11th of July, haven't we? What is the date today? 28th. So yesterday, right? 27th of July is 15 days after the 11th of July. 26th of July, rather. 15 days. Maulana Hazir Imam was in London. There were very few Ismailis then in London. There were a few students and 2-3 businessmen, that is all. And in that gathering, Maulana Hazir Imam said this, and I want you to listen. He said, this is a sad and a very happy day for me. It is a very happy day for me because I am seeing you, my beloved spiritual children, for the first time. And then he says, but it is also a sad day because you have lost the finest Imam we have had. But the Ismailis believe that all Imams Noor is the same. So why did he describe his grandfather as the finest Imam we have had? Ask yourselves. There must be something behind that description. And because of our Quranic studies, because of the way for the past 40 years we have studied the Quran with my husband, Fakir, as well as Allama Sahib when he was alive, we did intensive research into the Quran. And what does the Surah Laylatul Qadr say? Surah Laylatul Qadr says, which was recited earlier, that the night of Laylatul Qadr is better than 1,000 months. And here is Hazrat Imam saying to us, we have lost the finest Imam. I think we should try and see how do these two statements meet. What is that? Is there some batini secret here that we should understand? And so this is where the book takes you. Then we have a section of Maulana Sultan Mashah's honors. He had many, many awards, titles, etc. It is fully illustrated, yes. Some of these photographs you will definitely find on the internet. But I have tried to put them between two covers appropriately, where his life leads. And then we have a section on the main events in his life. And then there's a very interesting section. You know, the Holy Quran says that God will show us His signs in the external world as well as in the inner world. Now, look at these 6,000 years prior to Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah. Think of how many inventions took place. And then compare with the 50 years of his life. He says, when I was a young man, there was candlelight. Candlelight. Not even electricity, candlelight. And now, he said, after 50 years, there is atomic power. United States had actually dropped 2 atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What is this leap from candlelight to atomic power? Then he continues and he says, in my youth, people used horse carriages. And today, there is supersonic jet travel, as well as clever people talking about interplanetary communication. This leap, 50 years, only 50 years. And those 50 years are in Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah's time. So this is where I have tried to, prod, and I've tried to give hints, and I've tried to push people to engage intellectually. And I hope that this book will help to do that. Then, one section of the book, which is the longest, and I will come to that in a few minutes. The longest section of the book is his guidance and counsels and advice. I have not used the word faramin or farmans, because this book, once it's in print, it will go outside the Jama'at. And that's good, because it will build bridges. And so I've not used our technical language like farman. And wherever there are words like Jamaat Khana or Parda, I have put English equivalents in the brackets. The longest section are the farmans about women, the status of women. Now why did I do that? Because as an advisor, as an educator, I keep my eyes on all the things which are happening around in the Ismaili Jamaat as well as outside. And I found particularly the women leaders of the United States, when they were being interviewed by their local newspapers, they were only quoting one farman of Maulana Sultan-i. You all know that farman. Maulana said, if you have two children, one boy and one girl, but economically you can only educate one, educate the girl. Correct? Do you know this farman? Most of you have heard that. But there are other gems. There are real gems in this book. They are all from Kalam-e-Imam Mubin Part 1, Part 2, and Tariqas and Messages to the Jamaats of Africa. These are my sources. And I have cited my sources. I have given each and every date so that people can appreciate, and I'm going to show you a few examples in a minute. And finally, the last section of this book is called the concept of mono-reality. Mono-reality is a word which still, even today, you will not find in the English dictionaries. Every time I type it on my computer, it underlines it, saying there is no such word. Because Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah coined that word. He made that word. And that word, one reality, mono-reality. Mono-reality is much higher than monotheism, the belief in one God. You know, you will hear people say, oh, we, the people of the book, Jews, Christians, Muslims, we all believe in the oneness of God. That's great. But mono-reality goes a lot higher than that. Because mono-reality says, and be ready for it, mono-reality says that every human being has a spark of divine light, Maulana Sultan Shah's words, and that spark of divine light can become the universal flame. That spark can become the mono-real. So I'm not going into detail there because I want to show you my PowerPoint presentation now on the status of women, because that is very important, and I hope that all of you girls and women in this audience will take this message to the Jamaat. If I can ask you, Zara, to start now. We have to use this wall as our projection screen. I hope you can see at the back. Can you?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So just carry on now. Next one, please. Next. Okay. Now, I start with the Holy Quran. Why do I do that? I want to first and foremost explain to you that talking about the status of women in Islam is a very complicated and a very sensitive issue. You know, every time Hazrat Imam is asked in an interview, what is the status of women in Islam? And he always gives the example of Hazrat Khadija. Why does he do that? Because he knows that this is a very sensitive subject. Why is it sensitive? Because it involves many complex features. For instance, you all know what patriarchy is, I hope. Patriarchal families where the head of the family, the man, is in control and everybody does what they say. This is called patriarchy. This is a tradition which is followed almost unanimously throughout the Eastern world, even today. Then there is this phrase, misogyny. Men who have a superiority complex, that they are superior because they are men, right? Or because they are physically stronger than women. So there's misogyny. Then there are different interpretations of the Quran. Many different interpretations. So that adds to the complication. And then you can't look at the status of women in Islam without looking at what is happening to women in the background, all the world's women. Yeah? For instance, Jamal, do you know that the population of India has become imbalanced because they aborted 10 million female fetuses? Did you know that? So that is part of the women issue, right, in the world, the gender issue. What about the Me Too movement here, which started in California and is now right across the world? Me Too, all the sexual harassment that women have faced. So it's a very, very complex issue. That's why when I made my first presentation with this book at the House of Lords in London, which is the Houses of Parliament, I decided that I would approach it in this way. So I start with the Quran, and I write there right at the top that the revelation, Wahi, is very complex. There are 2 types of verses in the Quran, at least 2 types. One of them are time and space related, meaning if that ayah was descended at a certain place at a certain time, it was only appropriate to that time and place. But then there are universal ayats, which are forever, as long as the Quran is the final revelation of God. So I'm giving you an example of a verse which is time and space related. I'm sure that you have all read it, but I would like you to read it with me. O Prophet, tell your wives and daughters and the believing women that they should cast their outer garments over their persons when they go out in public. That is most convenient, that they should be known and not molested. Now look at that. Today, I don't know about your country, I have a vague idea, but in London, if a Muslim woman goes in a burqa or a niqab, she is actually molested. She is harassed, tortured, made to feel very uncomfortable because she is in a burqa. But the Quranic revelation was the opposite, exact opposite. That by drawing their outer garments, those women would be recognized as the women of the Muslim Ummah or the Prophet's wives and daughters. And then they would be respected. So, this is one example. And just note Surah 33, Ayah 59. In the same Surah, 33, 35, just 4 ayats difference. Look what the Quran says. And when I say the Quran says, that means God. God is commanding this. He is saying, men who are Muslim and women who are Muslim, men who believe and women who believe, men who obey, women who obey, men who speak the truth, women who speak the truth, men who persevere in righteousness and women who persevere, men who are humble and women who are humble, men who give the religious view and women who give the religious view, men who abstain and women who abstain, men who guard their modesty and women who guard. See, men who guard their modesty and women who guard them. I mean, look, can there be more equality than this? Now, this is a universal ayat. This is forever. Because what the Quran is telling both men and women, that you are equal as far as all religious and moral obligations are concerned. Okay, let's go to the next one. And I added this because this is Surah 49, Ayah 13. This is the one which Maulana Hasan Imam has chosen for his Diamond Jubilee emblem. Right? All people, gradually we have created you from a male and a female and made you nations and tribes so that you may recognize each other. This is pluralism. Verily, the most honored of you with God is the one best in conduct. God is not going to look at us and say, oh, he's a Muslim, he's a Christian. No. He's going to look at our record of deeds, at our ethics, at our conduct. This is a universal ayat, okay? Next. Now, this is the foreword that Maulana Sultan-i wrote in Zaidi's book, Position of Woman Under Islam, and it was published in Calcutta in 1935. You know, there are some pictures around here. This one with the Mata Salamat sitting amongst women, right? This is India. You can see from the frock and pacheri. But what else do you see here? Every lady is wearing a tie. Can you see the tie? This is from Zaidi's book. These are Ismaili women. Most of his photographs are Ismaili women. And yet the book title is Status of Woman in Islam. So, Maulana Sultan wrote this in his foreword. He says that I have not the least doubt that the whole spirit and teaching of the Holy Prophet, whatever their temporary aspects may have been, encourage the evolution of all legitimate freedom and legitimate equality between men and women. The responsibility before God for prayers, for action, and for moral decisions is the same for men and women. She is referring to that ayat which I showed you. According to the Holy Prophet's holy message, women, this is a very important statement, last one, 1350 years ago, were made economically independent of men. While in England, as late as 1880, a woman's property belonged to her husband. You should know things like that. Yes, they were talking to Akbar Bhai, his daughter has gone to Princeton. You know, Princeton University did not take female students until as late as 1967. This is your country. I picked up this fact from a friend who is at this moment researching patriarchy. 1967, Princeton didn't accept female students. They considered them inferior. So women have a very big struggle on their hands. But they cannot succeed in this struggle if the men are not with them. The men have to be with them. So let's go on to the next. It's a continuation. I firmly believe that in encouraging education amongst my religious followers and in trying as far as possible to give them equality. Look, Imam admits that he was trying to give equality, but the men were resisting. That's what he meant. He said, I have carried out the spirit of the holy message of my ancestor, okay? These quotations are all in this book, by the way, okay? Now, the final quotation from there about parda and seclusion. They are purely Oriental customs which came into Islam, but have no relation with the spirit of their teaching, though undoubtedly they became part of the social system which Islam carried on from its neighboring countries such as Persia, Byzantium, and Egypt. You see, when the Muslim armies went out of Arabia and conquered in that first enthusiasm after Prophet Muhammad's message, this happened after the Prophet's passing from the world. Then when they came back, they brought the customs of the Persians and the Romans and the Egyptians. It is not part of the religion of Islam. That's why we have to help people to distinguish between social customs and what the religion requires. Let's go. Now, this is his guidance. Zanzibar, 1905. So you see, 1907 he was here after going around the world. 1905 he was in Zanzibar. What did he say? The physical veil that women wear is not good, but draw a veil of modesty across the heart size. That is, do not let your hearts bear evil thoughts at any time. I used this with an English woman who came to do a tour of the Ismaili Center. When I worked for the Tariqa Board of UK for 16 years, I used to do many tours around the Ismaili Center in the daytime for the outsiders. And this woman came, and when I said, okay, we are going to go into the Jamaat Khana, this is our place of worship, she opened her big bag and took out a big scarf. So I said to her, she said, do I wear this? So I said to her, look at me. I'm not wearing it, so why should you? That was my answer to her. And then I told her this. I said, in my interpretation of Islam, our spiritual guide tells us that, you can cover yourself with as many layers as you like, but your bad thoughts can still exist. His advice is to keep a veil over these eyes and the hard sides, and not have, bad thoughts about anybody, right? Use your eyes for good looks, good observation. Don't use your eyes for greed or lust or avarice or enmity or anger, because our eyes are very expressive. Okay, guidance. Now I'm giving you just sentences, not paragraphs. Whatever knowledge exists in the world should be open to girls to learn. You think that was easy for the Imam to say that? You think of your parents and their parents. They were all stuck in the old Indian ideas, He had to pull them out by their bootstraps. Zanzibar, 1925. He established a girls' school in Zanzibar, 1937. The date is still written on the wall of that building, although it's not being used now, because the Jamaat has left almost. Zanzibar only has about 100, 150 Ismailis, right? Okay, then look at this. This particular one. We do not wish to see Ismaili women dependent on their parents, husbands, or anybody else, except God. Therefore, teach girls English. Look at that. Look at the date. 1926. 100 years ago. You're not too far from 26 now. 90 odd years ago, he said, learn English, which is now the lingua franca, right? You can't go anywhere without English. Okay? And then, of course, about typing, etc. We are happy. This is a very good one. Happy to know that women members are given equal rights in the bank. 1935, Mumbai. When I showed this to some friends in London, I looked at the ladies and said, how many of you have your own accounts? There were a few who didn't, even today. Okay? The time has come to appoint women to the provincial council of the bigger towns. 1938. This is decades and decades ago. In this world, we have been told absolutely correctly that women should play a great role. Otherwise, we envision a very negative future. Okay? Let's go. Right. Now, in the next two slides, I have highlighted something. Nairobi, 1926. Give them both education, right? Teach the girls too and give them an education. Boys and girls are equal, like the two eyes. Look, what a powerful example. You know that, if you close one eye, it's really difficult to see with one. These are two equally important. He used this analogy to make sure that the Jamaat understood whatever their level of education was at that time. Then he said that there is no difference between them. Like the boys, give the girls an education, that you should educate them equally. There is no difference between a man or a woman if he or she serves in any way with courage and faith. These are really important words for us, very important, okay? And then he quoted this man, the minister of Waqf from one of the leading ulamas of Egypt. And he said that a country is like a human body. Men and women are like the two lungs. But if the women are oppressed and restricted, conventional things, inhibitions and imaginary restrictions, what happens? It's like one lung has TB, tuberculosis, and only one lung is working. He said this in 1953 to the women of Pakistan. Do you think they have made great improvements since then? I don't think so. Yeah? And then, the next one, the last two slides now. He said this, this is in this book. Let me just see if I can find that for you, because it's a very important landmark, and this has really impacted my life a lot, so I would like to show it to you. Do you see this photograph? This is Maulana Sultan sitting. You can see from his age, 1952, only 5 years before he changed Jama. And Mother Sahaba in colonial dress. And this was the reward which the families got if they obeyed his farman about changing from long dresses to colonial dress. And there is a message from him in his own handwriting and his signature in Arabic, Muhammad al-Hussein. Right? So when he said he sent this Talika to the Jamaat of Africa, one man wrote a letter to Maulana Sultan Shah. Look at this, and he's smiling. He wrote a letter. Oh, somebody else? Yeah, one man from the Jamaat, he wrote a letter to Maulana Sultan Shah saying, Maula, you are bringing the vices of Hollywood into our Jamaat by encouraging the women to wear shorter dresses. That's what Ismaili wrote to Hazrat Imam. Can you imagine that? And can you imagine Hazrat Imam replied to him? And this is what he said finally in his letter. This is the end of the letter. He says, God does not consider anybody moral who is put in a cage or box and locked up. The only morality is those who resist temptation of evil and with honor carry their heads high, having seen the attraction of the bad, but chosen the good. That is moral. So you can imagine the impact on that audience in the House of Lords. You know, my English friend, who is a Lord member herself, you know, because she's lived with our family, so she knows what Ismailis think. But even there were half a dozen other non-Ismailis there, they all sat through this presentation. And then this is my final slide. I thought to myself, if more of those outsiders had come, this should impact them. The true meaning, oh yes, let me just explain. That, you know, it was Maulana Sultan-i Shah. Prior to him, his grandfather had to leave Iran to come to India and to fulfill Pir Saduddin, Pir Hassan Kabiruddin's promise that Maro Shah Jampudip Ma'aush. Correct? So, when Maulana Aga Hassan Ali Shah left Iran to come into Sindh and Hind, that ended 700 years of imamate in Iran. You know, imams had to go from here to there to here to there to avoid their enemies. It was a time of great, what should we say, discomfort, that the imam could not settle in any one place. And therefore, our dais too were moving, our peers were moving. And they had no time to write books on Ismailism like they did in the Fatimid times. For 700 years there was a vacuum of literature. Vacuum, complete vacuum. A couple of books of poetry and 1 or 2 small articles. So when Maulana Sultan Shah became Imam, one of the first things he did was to create the Recreation Club Institute in Mumbai. And he employed the Russian professor Vladimir I don't know, and Dr. Faizi, a Bohra scholar. So that they would start research into Ismaili literature. And they produced books like Risala al-Haqiqat, some small books of Nasir Kisra. But because Vladimir was a Russian and he was an atheist, he didn't really understand Nasir Kisra. There are lots of mistakes in his work, but nevertheless it is some new work. So now Maulana Sultan Shah is explaining the word recreation. Because if somebody says recreation, then you think, oh, that institute must have had table tennis and pool and whatever. No, it's not recreation. It is recreation. The true meaning of the word recreation is recreating or making something anew. We hope that you will keep the true meaning of the word recreation in your minds by understanding that the real recreation is to arouse a new consciousness within oneself or to inspire a new life within. This is my last slide. This is all Imam's mercy, and it is the prayers of our great teacher, Allama Sahib. So this brings me to the end of my presentation of the status of women in Islam, which is part of the book, the longest section of the book. And since I've been launching this book in Galway, Edmonton, Vancouver, Houston, here, we go to Atlanta, and we finish at the Arkan Museum in Toronto. We're going to launch there on the 10th of August. If you have friends there, tell them it's open house. It's in the auditorium of the museum in the afternoon. This, I have found that some of the things which are now an offspring, meaning rewards of doing this work, is that I have realized that my ambition was to arm our Ismaili women leaders with more farmans of Maulana Sultan Shah. That was my ambition. But I discovered that by translating those farmans, I will now open them up to Tajiki Ismaili women, Afghan Ismaili women, Irani Ismaili women, Syrian Ismaili women, and the new generation in the world who do not know Gujarati. So, you see, this is Maula's rahmat, that when you do something with a good niyat, afterwards you find that the importance of this work and its usefulness goes further than you had imagined. This is Maula's miracle, I think. Thank you all so much for your encouragement and for